Guys, it's Sarah, and I am here today with what I read in July of 2019. So these are all the books that I read in July. I am slowly catching up on this project, so that will be happening here. Don't worry. um, so for the month of July, I think I read 7 books. So that was actually one of my slower months, but um, yeah, so I think I'm doing books 67 through 73 is what I have there. So what I do is I stamp the numbers of the books. I do it in order that I read them, and I stamped them on those open book stamps as well, which I have been doing this whole time. So I just cut out cutting them out because that's really boring. So I've already gone ahead and picked out my Project Life cards to use for these, and I just try to match them up as best I can and try to put them on with book covers that make sense or that make sense for the stories. So for The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor, this is a adult thriller, and it felt very reminiscent of It by Stephen King, where it follows a young group of kids who find a body in the woods, and a lot of weird things start happening because of that. It kind of shapes some things that happen in their childhood and the way that they have relationships as adults. And as adults, it's a dual timeline thing, so you're going back and forth. And as adults, they're coming back to try to figure something out because something else starts happening as they're adults. So it felt very reminiscent of it. So I did give this one 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. Now you'll see me filling my stars in with my Sharpie because I cannot find my star stamp. I think I had it sitting on that acrylic stamp like that, and it got knocked off somewhere. I cannot find it. I've searched all over my desk, all over my floor, even in my trash can. Excuse me. And I can't find it anywhere. So I have no idea where it is. So I'm just going to use my Sharpie. It's fine. But yeah, so that is that one. But I did really enjoy it. The Chalk Man, I thought it was good. And it all revolves around the kids who would make chalk figures, and that's how they would communicate. And then some chalk figures start happening as they're adults, and it's not them doing it. So, okay, so next one is The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. This is a nonfiction book about Ted Bundy, and oh my gosh, this was one of my favorites of the year. I absolutely loved it. I am using these Tim Holtz snarky word tiles because I loved this book and I'm not apologizing for it. So up there, I put a strip that says "Don't judge me" and then "Sorry, not sorry," because, loving a book about an actual serial killer is kind of like, why did I enjoy this so much? But I really did. Obviously, not because, I don't admire him or anything. But learning about him was so interesting to me, and it gave me some creepy feelings because he was captured in Pensacola, Florida, which is where I went to college, on a street that I walked up and down hundreds of times while I was in college because it was in the downtown area. And we used to go to like some bars and clubs and stuff downtown. It's like, oh my gosh, I've gone down that street probably a million times. And that's where he was captured. And I never had any idea. He also traveled around in the Panhandle, which is where I live now and where I'm from. So it was very creepy to kind of read about that kind of stuff because it was talking about places that I knew. It also even talked about my sorority when he was on the campus at FSU. My sorority is not the one that was attacked, but it talked about people in the sorority that I'm in, or that I was in college, sorry. And so that was kind of interesting and very creepy, but man, it was a book that I could not put down. And for a nonfiction to keep me so interested and just not wanting to put it down, that says a lot because I don't read a lot of nonfiction. But that was definitely a really, really good one. Serial killers are something that just morbidly fascinates me. So this one was great. And I really enjoyed reading it. So, and I did the scenic route and detour there because he did a lot of traveling. He was on the run a lot. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there too. And all right, so the next one is It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini. This is a young adult book about a young boy who is suicidal, and he ends up checking himself in to a a mental health ward at a hospital so that he can be evaluated because he, wants to kill himself. He's getting those urges. And I like that he was conscious of it enough to make sure he goes and gets help, and that he didn't give in to those urges. But he stays there and is evaluated for 5 days. And so this is the story of him being in there and the people that he meets and the relationships that he creates from that experience. And I thought it was fantastic. I read it in 2 days, I think. I could not put it down. The characters were so wonderful. And it is actually based on the author's actual experience with that. He actually did spend 5 days in a ward. So this is based on his experience with that. And obviously, everything's all fictionalized from there. But it was really, really good. And like I said, I couldn't put it down. It really, really surprised me. A lot of exploration in the mind and the way that humans react to each other and react to different situations differently, and, pressures, and being able to handle certain things in certain ways. And it was just really good. I was really, really surprised at how quickly I read that book. And next up is Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. This is book number 2 in her Vicious series. The first one is called Vicious, that I read earlier in the year and loved. This one I didn't love quite as much. It was still really good. It follows the same characters with Victor and Eli, and they have figured out how to make themselves what they call superheroes, or I can't remember, extraordinaries. I can't remember exactly the wording that it was, but I think it was extraordinaries. And so they have powers, and they figured out how they could give themselves powers, basically. And they think that they're going to do this so that they can be good. Ooh, but they're not. They actually end up turning pretty evil, and they have this big battle between each other. And neither one of them is a good guy, but like one's a little bit less worse than the other. And it's so good. Very, very action packed. It's like an Avengers movie almost. It was really interesting. I thought all the powers were really interesting, and how people get certain powers was really interesting, and I loved it. I really did. I gave it 4.5 stars. I didn't give it a full 5 stars because I didn't like it as much as the first one, and there was new characters introduced that I was like, okay, but I did really, really like it. So that one was good. This one is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is book number 2 in her Throne of Glass series, and I really, really love this series. I've been reading through it. I was reading through it through 2019. I'm going to continue in 2020 and finish it up. I think I still have 3 more books to read out of 7, so more than halfway there. But this one is, as of right now, I still have 3 more books to read, but I think this one's my favorite so far. And I gave it 5 stars for sure. It was just a great continuation of our main character, whose name is Selena Sardothian. She is an assassin, and she is working for the king of this kingdom, who is really bad. He's actually an enemy of hers, but she's working for him to earn her freedom because she, was an assassin and she was captured and, meant to pay for her crimes or whatever. But he gets her an out as long as she works for him and kills who he needs killed and all that. And all the while she is trying to plot on how to take him down. She's also forming a relationship with his son, the Crown Prince, who is my favorite character, and also the captain of the guard. So really, really good. Loved it. This next one is one of my sister's favorite books, and it's one that she gave to me for Christmas, actually, and that is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. And this one was adapted into a TV show on Amazon, which I have not watched yet, but I really want to. And I really enjoyed this book. I listened to this one on audio, and oh gosh, it was so great. Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman are both British, and so they have that really great British humor that I love. And just, it follows an angel and a demon who have to work together because they are approaching the I always say apocalypse, but that's not really what it is. Um, the reckoning, I guess. Yeah. And they cannot find the Antichrist. The Antichrist has gone missing and they have to try to find the Antichrist and they have to work together even though they're enemies and they have a whole past and it is so funny. I mean, I laughed out loud quite a bit in that book. Um, like I was at the commissary listening to it and I was laughing. So it was great. I'm really excited to read, or sorry, not to read, to watch the show as well. I need to get on that, but really, really good. Okay, and then the last one here is Badger by C.M. McKenna. This is not one that I'm going to recommend to a lot of people because it is very, very dark. It is an erotic book and it goes to some pretty dark places. So make of that what you will. I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. My sister actually also told me to read this one. She's been recommending it to me for a while, and I finally read it, and I really loved it. So it follows a young girl who gets hit by a car. Kind of. She's not like seriously injured, like she hurts her wrist or something, but the car tries to drive off, and then as the car's trying to drive off, a boy comes up on a bicycle and he has a paint gun and he attacks the car basically with the paint gun and kind of smashes the mirrors and all that stuff while he's on his bike. And this guy is pretty known around town and he's called the Badger, and he's known as kind of a vigilante. So if he sees people, doing things like that, doing bad things and trying to get away with it, or if they're littering or not picking up after their pets, he will physically attack them and take matters into his own hands, basically, because the cops aren't doing anything. So he's kind of known as a vigilante. He has some fans, he has some not so fans, but he ends up helping her in that situation as she becomes kind of obsessed with him and makes it her mission to figure out who he is because no one really knows who he is. He's very elusive, and she ends up getting to know him. They strike up a relationship. She gets to know a lot more about him than she probably was bargaining for, and it becomes a whole thing. Really good. I loved it. Again, don't recommend it to everybody, I'll be honest with you, but it was really good for me. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in July. So I will do a slow little flip through here for you for all of the ones that I just documented so you can see what they look like in my album. And yeah, that is going to be it for me today. So I'll be back again soon with some more of this album for sure. I think my next one is August and I read about 10 books, so that'll be a little bit longer. But all right, I will talk to you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day.